All right, it is time to go through our NFL Week 2 power rankings. I'm pumped up. I'm excited. A lot of crazy shenanigans Week 1. A lot of movement in Week 1. Usually you get down Weeks 1, 2, and 3. Sometimes Week 4 you get a lot of crazy games. You never know what's going to happen. And, some teams are still filling each other out. Defense is tough. Defenses are still getting in shape. They're still trying to get film out on offenses. There's a lot of new coaches, a lot of new quarterbacks in different places. So there's a lot of different things that teams have to account for and try to account for, and they can't for all of them. So it's time to get into our Week 2 power rankings. At number 32, I have the Arizona Cardinals. So Cardinals, they had a chance in that game to get a few extra points. They were given a touchdown by Sam Howell. He fumbled the football. And that was their lone touchdown on the day. Couldn't do anything else on offense. Offensive line was horrible. Joshua Dobbs was Joshua Dobbs. He's not really quarterback you want back there. Defense was okay. It was getting pressure on the front, but ultimately couldn't really pull the game out. A game they had a chance to win. Kind of the same thing for the Colts. They were in that game with the Jaguars for the majority of the game. Just couldn't pull it off. They were pretty good. They were playing all right, but the offense was iffy, was inconsistent. Anthony Richardson putting his body on the line at the end. He'd thrown that bad interception. Colts belong down here at 32 with the Cardinals, two of the worst teams in the NFL currently. Maybe they can move up some, later in the season. Maybe the Cardinals get Kyler Murray back and they get a little juice in them, and maybe they move up a little bit. But the Cardinals don't really have a good football team. The Colts, we'll see how Anthony Richardson continues to develop. I thought he looked all right for the first week. I thought C.J. Stroud was the best quarterback in Week 1. I know a lot of people are saying Anthony Richardson, but C.J. Stroud actually looked great, and we'll talk about him a little more in a little bit. Number 30, you have the Chicago Bears. They were just dominated on both sides of the ball. It's the same old crap with them. People were just thinking that the offensive line was going to be immediately fixed. I don't know why I kind of screwed up but yeah, they moved down 5 spots, so that's a bit of a move. They just get dominated on both sides of the ball. Justin Fields, turnovers here and there, fumbling. I think he fumbled twice. I'm not sure if he fumbled twice. I know he did once, but not a good game for Justin Fields. He fumbled, and the interception he threw was pretty bad. Did have a few nice throws. Had a really nice throw to Darnell Mooney down the sideline. He ran the ball all right, but that offensive line is horrible. I really liked what we saw from Roschon Johnson. I believe he is a rookie running back they have. Khalil Herbert, all right, but the running backs didn't really have much room to run. And they need to, try and get the screen game going, which it did in the beginning. I thought they kind of went away from it. I thought it was poor play calling, just a poor, a poor game plan altogether. And I don't think Justin Fields played great. Like I said, he accounted for a couple of turnovers, and the Packers and Jordan Love they put it on them. Offensive line was not good. Defensive line was not very good. The linebackers, they're all right. I like T.J. Edwards and I like Edmonds. So, actually pretty good linebackers, honestly. But, sometimes your linebackers can only be as good as your defensive line is. And if your defensive line is not good, your linebackers aren't really that good. So I would have rather them have spent money on, maybe guys on the line rather than 2 linebackers. Guys on the line, I believe, are much more valuable. Now it depends, turnover wise, if the linebackers can get turnovers, which TJ Edwards and Edmonds can. Edmonds is kind of trying to serve as a Darius Leonard, as a Shaq Leonard and Matt Eberflus offense with Chicago. Kind of a similar player, but ultimately Bears look like the same old Bears in Week 1, and the Packers looked just fine without Aaron Rodgers. The Packers defense was good. Get to the Packers a little bit. Number 29, the Denver Broncos. Man, Russell Wilson didn't really look much better than last year. As I was saying throughout the offseason, I had Russell Wilson pretty low on my quarterback rankings. I'm like, yeah, you have Sean Payton, and Sean Payton being Sean Payton, I don't know why he went and traded for Will Lutz, trading for his guy when he missed an extra point. You traded for him, he missed an extra point. I wasn't too psyched about this Broncos offense. Jerry Jeudy, they make some plays, but I thought it was stale, and Russell Wilson was looking like the Russell Wilsons last year. Was he, having horrible, crazy, bad turnovers and a ton? No. Maybe he looked a little bit better, but it's not saying much. Offensive line, okay, I guess. Russ was getting pressured a bit. Defense is still good. Like I said, I think it's a very similar Broncos team to last year. I don't think it's any different. It's just a different coach, and the coach is much better, but I mean the team itself still is not good. But the defense is very good. I really like the defense, but the offense. This team is basically the same story as last year, just with the new head coach. We'll see if they could get better as the year goes on. Number 28, Carolina Panthers. They take the loss there to the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, the Falcons looked pretty good, man. I really liked how Bijan looked. Desmond Ridder looked all right. He's making some nice throws. It did underthrow some passes, but I ultimately thought that the Panthers actually, their offensive line wasn't very good. They're struggling. No, they were running the ball okay. Not great, but there was a lot of pressure on Bryce Young. Bryce Young could barely throw the football. Receivers were, I thought Jonathan Mingo had a really nice game, but the offensive line wasn't very good, as I was saying. Defense, they have some guys in the front there, Derek Brown and Brian Burns playing pretty well, but not enough to beat the Falcons, and they're down here 28. Number 27, Tennessee Titans. I honestly thought that the Titans should have won that game versus the Saints. Now, there was that call at the end. Derek Carr fumbled it, and they called the whistle, so I guess they couldn't reverse it. But I honestly thought, that was a fumble, and they ended up getting 3 on that drive. And the Saints early on, the special teams, there was a turnover, quite a few turnovers in this one. Derek Carr threw a pretty bad interception, but it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't good. It was the Amani Hooker baited him, made it look like he wasn't going to cover the seam. Carr tried to anticipate, throw between the safety and linebacker, Amani Hooker was just playing in the box, and Amani Hooker baits Derek Carr, gets an interception there. But I thought Derek Carr looked pretty good. He did overthrow a few passes. He overthrew Michael Thomas in the end zone once. I thought Carr looked pretty good for the most part, but Ryan Tannehill did not look very good. Tannehill was pretty bad, 3 interceptions. Constantly under pressure, couldn't really do much then. Even though sometimes he did have some time. Derrick Henry looked fine. Derrick Henry is still the king. Is still King Henry. King Henry, and I will say the Saints struggled to stop the run a little bit, not a lot, but Henry, Henry's Henry, and the Titans' offense line is not very good. I'm not a fan of the Titans' offense line. It looked better than what I expected it to. Kind of the same for another team that we're going to talk about in a little while, but I thought the offense line looked better. There was a lot of really bad offensive line play, and they ran the ball, and considering it looked better than I thought it would, hopefully the Saints defensive line can get a little better, because I don't think the Saints offense line is good. But the secondary for the Saints was phenomenal. I felt like Ryan Tannehill could have thrown like 5 or 6 interceptions this game. That's what it legitimately could have been. He was really bad. A few nice plays from Tajay Spears, but the defense, man, as I said earlier, quite a bit in the offseason. This Titans defense is one of the best in the league, and the Saints have weapons too. Derek Carr is a decent quarterback. He looked good. Chris Olave looked really good. Michael Thomas had a few nice catches. There's a lot of weapons in this offense, and the Titans did a pretty damn good job limiting those weapons. Jamal Williams is a good running back. The Saints have an all right offensive line. Didn't look as good as I thought it is, honestly. So it's kind of like the opposite for the offensive lines. But the Titans' defensive line is just very impressive. They're one of the best in the league. Even with the loss of Bud Dupree and a few other guys on that line, I think the Titans, this Titans defense is still one of the best in the league. And we saw it was a very defensive game, but I thought it was a lot of good Titans defense, versus a good Saints offense. Derek Carr is still getting used to the system, still playing in it, still getting used to it, but the Titans play good defense. They played horrible offense. The Saints defense, it was okay. I felt like the Titans were really driving down the field a few times. I feel like they were moving the ball, just couldn't convert. They're throwing, kicking a lot of field goals. I know it's week 1 here. A lot of the teams struggled in the red zone. Number 26, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They moved up. Yeah, they moved up. So I don't know why I put -3. I believe I had them at 29, so they are at 26 now. So the Buccaneers actually move up 3 spots, and they look pretty good. they looked okay. I knew that the defense was pretty good. I like that defense, kind of a similar situation. The Titans is not as good as the Titans, but I do think the Buccaneers have a good defense. Carlton Davidson looks good. The Buccaneers defense is pretty good. You're getting pressure. It's just, I still think they got outplayed. I still think the Vikings outplayed the Buccaneers. The Vikings offenses, I feel like the Vikings offense was going up and down the field. Vikings had a lot of sloppy turnovers, so this is definitely one where I look at and I say, yeah, this is a week 1 matchup. Yeah, the Bucs are not a very good football team offensively, especially. The Vikings outplayed them, but the sloppy turnovers led to a Buccaneers team being able to take advantage and win the football game. Jefferson had a great game. Mike Evans, Godwin had that beautiful catch at the end to put it away. We're like Baker Mayfield, like I always say about Baker Mayfield, he has these nice stretches where he's playing well, but then he's one of the most inconsistent quarterbacks in the NFL from going from drive to drive. One drive he looks absolutely phenomenal. The next drive he looks like absolute crap. He can't get the ball there. It's hitting the ground on a wide open stick route. Baker Mayfield's so inconsistent. If he could just find a way to be consistent, he can be good. He's got weapons. The offensive line was okay. It wasn't horrible. Mayfield was pressured a bit, but I don't know. I feel like the Bucs could be better so it's the quarterback. I like the defense. They have weapons. The offense line isn't great. They really struggled to run the football. I like Sean Tucker. I'm Rashad White. The jury's still out on him, but the Bucs get outplayed, but they still win. It's kind of this is one of those week 1 matchups where it's like, yeah, the Vikings should have won this one, but they didn't. And kudos to the Buccaneers for pulling it off. All right. 25, I have the Houston Texans. So the Texans moved down 3 spots. They get beat pretty bad by the Ravens. The defense was playing it tough. They were keeping it close in the first half. Ravens made the second half adjustments and they just pulled away. I really like how the Texans played. Honestly, it's just I think Todd Monk is the Ravens' new offensive coordinator. It was pretty slow. We're like, where's this explosive offense? Second half, it picks up and. There it is somewhat. Now, the Texans defense have played tough, and I do think that the Texans, I do think that C.J. Stroud played really well. I thought he was the best rookie in week 1, and I know a lot of people are saying Anthony Richardson played well, but I think C.J. Stroud had the better week 1. He was very accurate. I wish some of these receivers were a little better, but some of these receivers, they're not horrible. You have Tank Dell. You have a few. It's not Josh Reynolds. It's I know he used to play for the Rams and I always forget his name. I always mix him up with Reynolds. I'm blanking, but he's a guy from the Rams. He's a good receiver. They have someone else. I'm blanking. Nico Collins had a really nice game. Really liked what I saw from Nico Collins. It's just, that offensive line is really bad in that Ravens front. The Ravens give all these different crazy looks, and that was giving the Texans offensive line fits, which just does not give C.J. Stroud a chance to read the field, get his feet set, actually make him throw not under pressure. I thought C.J. Stroud made a few nice throws on the run and under pressure. I was impressed by C.J. Stroud. I thought he played really well. Number 24, you have the Las Vegas Raiders, so I know the Raiders, it seems like 5 spots is a lot to move up versus a Broncos team that is not very good as it is, and they barely won. There were a lot of mistakes by Jimmy Garoppolo. This team did have a lot of mistakes in general, but actually Jimmy Garoppolo looked okay. Vontae Adams had a good game. This offense looked all right. It's just saying, that Broncos defense is very good. The Raiders find a way to sneak it out at the end. But yeah, I think I just moved them up 5 because there's some other teams that that lost that shouldn't be ahead of them. Maybe I could switch it. Arguably I could have put the Texans at 26, and then put the Raiders put the Bucs at 24, put the Raiders at 25. But this is where I think every team belongs right now. You could have done all of that, but I think that's overreacting and moving the Buccaneers up too high, and then the Raiders. I don't I know I moved the Raiders up 5 spots. That is a lot from 29 to 24. I don't like the defense. I don't think the defense is very good, but they played well against Russell Wilson. I mean, Russell Wilson is at the 12 of his career, and the Broncos offense isn't that great. I don't expect the Raiders to continue winning this year. I expect them to have a rough year, but we will see if Jimmy G can play like he did today. And the Raiders can clean up some of the mistakes they had today. Then I can see the Raiders maybe pulling off a couple of more wins and maybe being a much better football team than I anticipate. But yeah, Raiders still at 24. The Los Angeles Rams. So this is a game where they look pretty good. That offense was explosive even without Cooper Kupp. You had Tutu Atwell making plays. You had Tyler Higbee making a few nice catches. Running game wasn't really there. Cam Akers wasn't really impressive. Even though they did punch it a few times with the Notre Dame young running back Kyron Williams, I believe his name is. I think he's from Notre Dame. I thought the running game looked okay at times, but Cam Akers didn't really look really good. The offensive line was able to hold up okay. Matthew Stafford just being impressive, and that defense looking pretty good. Didn't expect that game went the opposite of what I thought it would go. And the weird thing is it's week 1, and you see weird matchups like this and weird games happen, but it just flat out looked like the Rams were better to me. It just flat out looked like the offense was better, and it was more explosive. I don't know. That game was weird. So maybe it's a bit of an overreaction to move them up 7, but I really feel like that the Rams legitimately played better than the Seahawks. Like there wasn't like sloppy turnovers, Seahawks making stupid plays and just like their turnovers. There wasn't a lot of that. I just felt like the Rams played better. Now it's still week 1, but as I'm saying, I honestly think the Rams just look better. Now this could be a team that doesn't play well as the season goes on, but maybe they'll get better as the season goes on. Maybe I'll be proved wrong, but I think a lot of people expected the Rams not to be too good this year, but really underestimating Matthew Stafford and how good Matthew Stafford is. He elevates the team around him. I think even I forgot that that he really dragged the Lions team to somewhat competence when he was there. He had some nice cast, supporting casts there, but the moment he came to the Rams and had a really good cast, he took them to the Super Bowl and won it. So I guess really, yeah, he was injured too and dealing with injuries, and that's another thing with Matthew Stafford is he does get injured a bit, but Rams pull it off, 30-13 in a convincing fashion. 22, the New York Giants. Oh, that game was so painful to watch. So painful to watch. The offensive line was absolutely dreaded, horrible. Evan Neal was horrible. Then basically the entire offensive line was just getting manhandled. That Dallas team is just out of this world. They're incredible. Very good on defense, very good on offense, and the Giants offense just cannot hang with them whatsoever. And I know I see a lot of people saying that it was raining and they couldn't get going, and but the Dallas Cowboys were playing in the same thing, and their offense was going just fine. I mean, their defense didn't make a lot of plays, didn't make field position a little better, and they did get that big time field goal block. But I mean, they both played in that heavy rain. So I'm not really, I'm not putting too much emphasis on that because they both played in it. And, I'd say even, the Cowboys lost on a few big plays because of the rain as well, but they still were just a better team and pulled it out. But the Giants, man, defense were rough. I did think Deontay Banks played good, the first round pick out of Maryland. That he had a pretty good night. I think he's one positive note. Offensive line, or, the defensive line struggled. It's just, this Giants team just got manhandled, and I expect the Giants to be a decent team this year, but if that offensive line cannot improve, if that's how it's going to look all year long, I don't care whose defensive line they're going to play. They're going to be a bad football team, and Daniel Jones was not very good. Now, I feel for Daniel Jones. He couldn't really do much. It was very difficult for him to do anything at all. By the time he got the ball, there's already 2-3 guys on his face. The entire Dallas offense, or entire defensive line, or even, heck, his own offensive line was just in his own lap being pushed back at him. So, Giants down here at 22. Hopefully they can big matchup for them against the Falcon, or not the Falcons, against the Cardinals. How are they going to look against the Cardinals? Because the Cardinals front was able to get some pressure on Sam Howell on the Commanders, but can they do it against the Giants? We'll see. Hopefully, this is a big game for the Giants. I feel like this is a big game right away because you have to come out and you have to beat the Cardinals. You know, if you lose to the Cardinals, and you know it's still early in the year, but it's like, yeah, yikes! You really got blown out at home versus Dallas, and then you lose to a team that is considered that a lot of people expect to have number 1 overall pick. They lose to the Cardinals. It's not going to look good the rest of the season, but they still have a long year to go. It's only week 1, but the Cowboys team were flat out just a better football team in this one. Rough week for the Giants. Hopefully they can get back on track next week against the Cardinals. It's their chance to get some confidence, just get a win. Doesn't matter how they get it. But I don't think this Giants team is that bad. I just think the Cowboys are just that good of a football team. Number 21, you have the Atlanta Falcons. They look pretty good against the Panthers, as I was saying. You know, Desmond Ridder was under pressure a little bit. Caleb McGarry, horrible. He was really struggling against Brian Burns. Brian Burns really getting in there often, really against Bryce Young. And this entire Falcons defensive line was just getting at it all night long. Linebackers, and I liked how the secondary played. You know, is it the secondary playing really well, or is it the receivers not being able to get open? Probably a little bit of both, but A.J. Terrell, phenomenal. Falcons, Desmond Ridder looked pretty good. I honestly thought that he looked all right. He did make a few questionable throws, and some throws that were off target, but I'll say I think Desmond Ridder I believe he did all right, and Bijan looked great, breaking so many tackles. Drake London had a drop. I hope Drake London can bounce back. Kyle Pitts had a really nice game. He had that big-time catch later on. Desmond Ridder threw it up, threw a prayer, and he got it. And I will say that they did struggle against the tight end, and we'll see if that trickles into the rest of the season. But I thought Atlanta looked pretty good. I think they can absolutely compete for the division crown with the New Orleans Saints. But we'll see, because the Saints are a pretty well-rounded team. They're a pretty good football team, but the Falcons showed a lot of good stuff. That running the ball really well. It's the offensive line blocking good, more than good enough. But especially that defensive line, Bud Dupree, Grady Jarrett, Ani Amada. Defensive line I was really impressed. Something that the Falcons haven't had in a long time. Finally getting Grady Jarrett some help, and you see what this Falcons defensive line can do. Great job by the Falcons this week to beat the Panthers, beat division rival, and rain on Bryce Young's NFL debut. Number 20, Washington Commanders. So I was kind of debating on if I should even move the Commanders up. I wanted to keep them where they were, but there were other teams that had to move down. Quite a few, like the Giants had to move down, so that definitely helped them move up one. And Sam Howell looked okay. He was under pressure all game long. That Washington Commanders offensive line was pretty bad. Couldn't block anything. Sam Howell, that fumble. He had that one fumble that led to a touchdown. Cannot fumble, man. I know. It's, you're being pressured all day long, but, there's no excuses to fumble that and give the Cardinals their touchdown and ultimately keep them in the game. They're one big play away from the Cardinals ultimately winning the game, really. The Commanders won, so they move up. The defense looked really good, but the Cardinals' offense line is not good. Not really any. No one can get open. Joshua Dobbs not really impressive. I thought Trey McBride had a few nice catches. I thought he looked good. If there's one thing to take away from that offense, I thought he looked good. I thought he had a few really nice catches. James Conner had an all right day. Number 19, Pittsburgh Steelers. All around a horrible day. Kenny Pickett was panicky, and rightfully so. He was getting hit every single play all day long. So I feel for Kenny Pickett, but he was compounding with bad plays and rough spots into disasters. He made bad play. He made plays that could have just been bad into complete disasters. Threw a few interceptions. I feel like he could have thrown a lot more. Kenny Pickett, just not a good day. Very panicky with his feet. Not really accurate. Just a long day. And the Niners just absolutely killed them. That's all I really have. The run defense, just really not Mike Tomlin type of team. And, it is week 1, but the Niners are ready to roll, man. And the Steelers got a draft of that, to say the least. Next lineup, the Seattle Seahawks at 18. So I had to move the Seahawks down quite a bit. If you're going to lose to a team that is not expected to be good this year, now maybe the Rams aren't that bad overall as a lot of us thought. You have a very good quarterback in Matthew Stafford. You have a few. I mean, he makes whatever work. Tutu Atwell was playing good. Tyler Higbee had a few nice catches. It just seemed like the Rams were just the better team here. Now it's just week 1, so hopefully Geno Smith and that offense can find a way to get some kind of footing under that offense. It was very bad. Offensive line was not playing well. They couldn't really get any pressure on defense. It's not just not a good day for the Seahawks, and that is why they were moved down 4 spots. Number 17, you have the Minnesota Vikings. So I really do think the Minnesota Vikings are a better football team than the Buccaneers. I fully believe that they outplayed them. It's just they had the few little stupid mistakes. Kirk Cousins fumbling the ball a couple times. Mishandling a snap, throwing a really bad interception in the red zone. Just a lot of stupid little mistakes and sloppy play that led to the Buccaneers taking it, even though I think the Vikings completely outplayed them, especially offensively. And I will say that the Vikings struggled. They struggled in the red zone, but I'm sure I hope that will be cleaned up. You have Jefferson. You had that really nice play to Jordan Addison. It felt like the Vikings were just moving the ball down the field all day long, all game long. They just couldn't punch it in. They kept making stupid mistakes that kept on holding them back from really putting this game away. Unfortunately, they didn't, and it caught up with them. If you're gonna, especially a team, if the longer the underdog team is in the game, the better they feel, and the more excited the team gets, the harder they play. And I think that's what happened here. I don't think Baker Mayfield played a good game. I thought Kirk Cousins threw the ball really well, just a few mistakes here and there that cost them the game. They need to get pressure with someone else other than Danielle Hunter as well, because Danielle Hunter can't do it all by himself. So, but the offensive line did look pretty good, although they just had so many turnovers. The offensive line looked really good. I liked Alexander Madison; he looked very good. Just they outplayed the Buccaneers, but they ultimately lost because they made some little silly mistakes, and in games that they were 11-0 to start the year last year, or I think they said they had 11 straight games. They started 11-0, and all of them, if not all of them, were one-score games. First game of 2023, they lose a one-score game in which they were the best at last year, but it goes to show those one-score games, you cannot be winning in one-score games all the time. If you're winning by one possession, by one-score game every single game, you're not really a great football team because you can't really put it away. You're not really, finishing the game off, and you don't have the power to. We'll see. I think the Vikings are going to do better. I think they're going to do better as the season goes on. Tough matchup this weekend against the Eagles. Speaking of the Eagles, you have the Patriots here. The Patriots down here at 16 played the Eagles really well this weekend. A few plays here and there that that they're really screwed themselves. The offensive line really struggling in the big time moments, and that's when that Philly defensive line comes through. One of the best defensive lines in the NFL, if not the best, including the rotation. And it may be questionable to move them up 3 spots, even though they lost. Like I was just saying about the Vikings, but the Vikings lost to the Buccaneers, who they outplayed with the Baker Mayfield, with not a great offensive line. Defensive line is iffy, even though they do have some playmakers on the defensive line. The Buccaneers defense is good, but that Eagles team is on a whole different level. Then on top of that, you have Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, a great offensive line. I moved the New England Patriots up because they put up a really good fight, and Really like what I saw from Mac Jones. Mac Jones looked really good. It looked like the Patriots' offensive line was playing well. They didn't run the ball too well because that Eagles front is just crazy. It's hard to get a push on them and to create holes. But the receivers were getting open a little bit for Mac Jones. Hunter Henry, unfortunately, towards the end of the game there, he dropped a wide open pass on fourth down. He was wide open. It would have been tough for him to get the first down, but he could have fought for it, and I think that was a game sealer that he dropped. But the Patriots really kept in it. They really impressed me. They really took advantage of some of the Eagles' weaknesses, and they did really well against Jalen Hurts. Really well. It might be a little wild moving the Patriots up 3 spots, but moving them up over teams like the Steelers, the Vikings, and the Seahawks, who all looked, even though the Vikings outplayed their opponent, they lost to one of the lesser teams in the league. The Seahawks flat out got beat really well by the Rams, and the Steelers just got manhandled by the 49ers. I don't see why the Patriots shouldn't be ahead of them for keeping it really close and pushing one of the best teams in the NFL to their limit. Patriots belong at 16. They belong up here. Well, I'm saying up here like it's top notch, but they're right in the middle of the pack, and they could continue to rise. It could be much better than anticipated, but it is week 1, so we'll see. Number 15, the New Orleans Saints. Like I said earlier with the Titans, I feel like the Titans should have won that, but the Saints did pull it off. Maybe that should have been a fumble that did lead to 3 points as well, but the Saints did pull off. I thought Derek Carr looked pretty good to throw that one interception to Amani Hooker. Amani Hooker did bait him really good, but Derek Carr looked pretty good in his debut. Other than that, was under pressure quite a bit. It's very difficult to throw on this Titans defense. As I was saying earlier, Titans defense is very good. The Saints offensive line played okay. The Titans defense line is just incredible. Titans just have a very good defense all in all, and I expected this to be a very low scoring game, and ultimately the New Orleans Saints prevail and they come out on top. Just a little more firepower on offense, even though the Titans were close to winning this, and it felt like the Saints were actually moving the ball well. I felt like a lot of teams struggled in the red zone this year, or this week in week 1. I thought a lot of teams really struggled in the red zone, and the Saints were no different, but they move up one after beating the Tennessee Titans. That their defensive backs were on the ball as well. Their defensive line was playing okay. I would have liked to see the defensive line play a little stronger, especially versus the Titans offensive line, which I didn't think was as good as they played. I didn't think they were as good as they played. But, the cornerbacks were on it. You had Alontae Taylor, Marshawn Lattimore. They're all absolutely killing it all game long. So the Saints moving up 1. And then you have the Green Bay Packers moving up 6 spots to number 14. One of the bigger movers of the week, but we didn't, the Packers dominated on both sides of the ball. It felt like it should have been like 40-something, that the Packers could have even scored a lot more points. Justin Fields didn't have a good game, and the Packers are, as I was saying going into this year in this game, the Packers have, they still have a good team, even though they still don't have, they don't have Aaron Rodgers, and that's one of the big reasons why a lot of people don't think they're, going to be as good, and they might not be as good, but they completely dominated the Chicago Bears. They went into Soldier Field, and they corralled the very difficult quarterback to corral in Justin Fields. Now, Fields had a few big passes here and there, but not a lot. They really kept him under wraps in the run game and passing the football. They picked him off once. They made him fumble twice. The Packers defense has playmakers, and they made a lot of plays. They made a lot of plays versus or against Chicago Bears. The defensive line was getting after it. The cornerbacks were playing well. Linebackers were playing well. Quay Walker had that pick 6. And, Darnell Savage made a few big plays. Everyone on this defense were making plays. And I don't see why the Green Bay Packers cannot continue this success. Jordan Love looked pretty good. I thought he looked very good, especially for having to fill in the shoes that he has to fill in. And Aaron Rodgers' expectations are sky high. If you're anything less than a top 5 quarterback, the Packers fans are going to be disappointed because they've been spoiled with Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre over the past 30 years. But Jordan Love looked good. Romeo Doubs Dubes looked really good. Had two touchdown catches. Aaron Jones, phenomenal. The offensive line was pretty good. Packers in general dominated this game, and my big question was, how are they going to respond to Aaron Rodgers not being there? How was Jordan Love going to play? And they answered a lot of those. It's week 1. A lot of times mediocre offenses can look very good in week 1, but I thought Jordan Love looked pretty good. And Christian Watson wasn't even playing. So, and Musgrave was one of the tight ends that they drafted. Was one of the young guys that they drafted, and he looked pretty good. Jordan Love did overthrow one to a tight end, and I think it was Musgrave. Probably would have been like a walk-in touchdown. But it's the other one he didn't catch. But ultimately, Packers looked really good. They absolutely dominated the Chicago Bears. Felt like it should have been more, but still dominated them. Number 13, I have the Los Angeles Chargers. Didn't feel the need to move them up or down. They played a tough game versus the Dolphins, and the biggest moment at the end there, it felt like whoever had the ball last was going to win that one. But Justin Herbert couldn't, in that Chargers offense, couldn't really take it home that game. And, I thought the running game was improved for the Chargers as well. They haven't been able to run it the way they've wanted to, but I thought they ran it very well against the Dolphins. Both defenses obviously did not have a good game, but very high-powered game. I was impressed with Justin Herbert to keep up with them, but I wasn't impressed in the fact that he couldn't do it in the biggest moment. And I kind of want to really note that down because last year in the Jaguars game in the playoffs, I know it's a little bit different of a team, and it's different every single year. But last year in the playoffs, Justin Herbert had multiple chances to go ahead and put that game away. Didn't do it. And then a couple of years ago, when it was the Chargers and the Raiders, he ultimately couldn't get that game done. So I'm wondering, are the big moments a little too much for Herbert? Now, it definitely, the team around him didn't help at times, but I think this team is better. The offense line is healthy. I thought the offense line looked better. Didn't look great. I thought it looked all right. But I just didn't feel the need to move them up or down because, I didn't think the Packers should be above them. I think the Packers at 14 are good, and ultimately I didn't want to move the Bills too far down, although they didn't look good. I don't want to overreact, but like you were just talking about the Bills number 12. But let's finish up with the Chargers before we move on to the Bills. So the Chargers is just, that defense has got to figure it out. I know the Dolphins' offense is, elite. They have elite players. The offensive line can be a little suspect, but Tua making throws that are just absolutely incredible. Anticipation, him throwing deep balls to Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and whether they're deep throws or not, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle can both make big time plays after the catch. Really impressed by both of these football teams on offense. Defense, not so much, but the Dolphins were the ones that were able to pull it out in the end. And it's not often I keep a team where they are when it's not often a team stays in the same spot. It's not often a team like the Patriots move up 3 spots when you lose. When any team moves up 3 spots, I don't know if that's ever going to happen again in my power rankings. But then you got the Buffalo Bills. The circumstances of that game, man. There is no reason why Josh Allen and the Bills could not have won this game. Aaron Rodgers going down 4 plays in the game, and you're playing against Zach Wilson. I think Josh Allen single-handedly lost this game for the Bills. Now, it's a team sport, yeah, but Josh Allen played a huge factor into why the Jets were able to stay in this game and pull it out at the end. The big-time walk-off punt return was awesome, was incredible. But, the Bills, Josh Allen, one of my keys before that game in my preview was, it can't be the Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen show. You cannot just, keep on writing up plays for Stephon Diggs, because you don't want him to get mad, which we've seen. And I feel like that's a problem the Bills could be having right now. Now, Josh Allen is also forcing it. Just throwing picks. He overthrew a couple passes, underthrew some. He fumbled at the end. Josh Allen, it's week 1. And, I'm going to give the props for that Jets defense for doing that. Especially after what happened and what the circumstances were, it's very easy for, for them to just say, "Oh, Aaron Rodgers is out. We're done. We're screwed." No, they kept fighting and they kept playing and they pulled it out. They did it. But the Bills, they were up by like 10 points too, weren't they? They were up by 2 scores, I think. But Josh Allen just trying to, and like I said, once you could get Josh Allen off focus, and he's not playing well, he never rebounds. And now he's 0-5 in overtime as well. Had a chance to go down and score a touchdown. 3 and out. Not a good look by the Bills. Not a good look at all. And they move all the way down here to 7. I believe I had them at number 5 last week. So, not a good look for the Bills whatsoever. The defense played good. Offense, not so much. And Josh Allen is one of the big-time problems for that. And, no one else stepping up. Like I said, if no one else steps up, the Bills are probably going to lose. I thought they were going to lose with Rodgers playing. I never thought they would have lost with Zach Wilson playing, but any given Monday, any given Sunday, the expression still works in that sense. But number 11, Detroit Lions. So they beat number 1, so they're moving up quite a bit. Big time game, a lot of big storylines. Now, the Lions shouldn't have won that game though. They should not have won that game. There were quite a few mistakes that they capitalized on that the Chiefs didn't. The Chiefs, Kadarius Toney dropped quite a few passes. He dropped that wide open one towards the end that could have gotten the Chiefs in the field goal range and won them the game. They had to do a fake punt to keep one drive going. The offense just, and they got a pick 6. The offense wasn't that impressive. It looked good. It was enough to get the win. But the defense was a real winner of this game. Really impressed by that Lions defense. And then if that Lions offense can take the next step, because they struggled. Other than Amon-Ra St. Brown, they struggled to get open. Josh Reynolds looked pretty good. Robert Woods for the Texans. That's who it is. If you were watching since the Texans, that's who I was looking for. But Josh Reynolds looked pretty good. Did fumble, and that definitely hurt. So that's another thing right there. They were in the red zone. Josh Reynolds fumbled. So there were a lot of mistakes in this game of the Lions. They didn't capitalize on a lot of opportunities. I think they were very fortunate that Chris Jones and Travis Kelce were in this game. If Travis Kelce and Chris Jones were in this game, I think the Chiefs would win this. But we're going off of what happened. Lions won it. Lions beat the Chiefs. They beat number 1. So they're moving up to number 11. Number 10, Jacksonville Jaguars moved down 1 spot. So I don't like moving teams. It's not often I move teams down when they lose or when they win a football game. And, maybe to argue I can put the Bengals behind the Jaguars and I can put the Jaguars ahead of the Bengals. But I'm not going to overreact too much to the Bengals losing that game like that. I took them all the way down to 2-7 from, or 2-9 from 2. But the Jaguars, they lost a spot just because, the Bengals had to move back there. A few teams moved up. The Miami Dolphins had to move up all the way to 5 because they played really well. It's just the way the rankings fell, honestly, in this point. The Jaguars, it's very impressive to see a team struggle the entire game, against a team that they should absolutely be killing. They should have absolutely smoked the Colts. But it's week 1. They struggled. It was a sloppy game. Trevor Lawrence was very sloppy all game long. He was underthrowing. He threw a pick to Julian Blackmon. Julian Blackmon just completely dropped it. There was the tip ball from Tank Bigsby. Tony Brown was there to pick it. Colts didn't take advantage of their mistakes. But the Jaguars ultimately at the end, they showed who was better. But I expect the Jaguars to get better as the season goes on. Hopefully, Trevor Lawrence can find some consistency. This has been my question with Trevor Lawrence. He is so inconsistent, and when he is bad, he is bad. But when he is good, he is good. And it seems like it's like inconsistencies from drive to drive. I like Trevor Lawrence. Like I said, when he is good, he is one of the best, if not the best in the league. He is one of the best. But consistency is his issue. And I thought the rest of this Jaguars team played pretty good. Defense played all right. Really good. The run defense played really well. Colts offensive line couldn't get anything going on the run. They had like 1.6 yards per carry. Kudos to Jaguars defense. Otherwise, I think the Jaguars played pretty well. I think the Colts definitely had a few breaks in this game, and they still couldn't win the game. So the Jaguars take it. They do lose one because they were sloppy. They were playing sloppy football, so they do move down a spot. But that doesn't mean they're bad. It doesn't mean they're worse than they were. It doesn't mean I didn't think they play. That I don't think they belong up here. It's that they struggled against a football team that they should have smoked. And I know it's week 1, and just to get so maybe I should have put the Bengals at 10. But no, I think it's all right. I guess it's a preference thing. I guess you could put the Jaguars and Bengals, and you could swap them if you really want to. I don't have a problem with it. I wouldn't tell you that you're wrong either way, but the Bengals number 9, run defense was horrible. They couldn't run the ball themselves. Offensive line was absolutely horrible. Now, I do think the Bengals will get better as the season goes on, but maybe Joe Burrow was 100%. It's just that Cleveland Browns defense is elite. They absolutely killed it. They were getting pressure all day long. Myles Garrett. They're really killing it. I really liked what I saw from the Cleveland Browns. And, ultimately, the game, was rainy, but the Browns had to deal with it too. So it's not like only one team had to deal with the rain. Both teams had to deal with the weather. But it seems like the receivers weren't really getting Joe Burrow just wasn't getting time to throw. We don't have time to throw. You constantly have to be, trying to get the ball out quicker than you have to. When an offense gets very horizontal and you have to call a game horizontally and played a game as an offense horizontally, the defense can just, load the box. They're not going to be worried about you getting any time or beating you deep because they can't. They literally don't have time to throw a deep pass. And I know Jamar Chase dropped one in this one. They were just this entire Bengals team just was not on point. They weren't there. But I fully expect them to come back and continue. And for some reason, they just can't beat the Browns, and they always start slow. So I fully expect the Bengals to pick up the pace and return to the Bengals that we know. But as we see a common recurrence this weekend, quarterbacks don't have any time at all. There's absolutely nothing they can do behind a horrible offensive line, especially if the offensive line is playing a really good defensive line. And if you can't run the ball, can't get your quarterback time, it's going to be a long game. Number 8, I have the New York Jets. Very impressive outing by the New York Jets defense. I didn't feel a need to move them up, and I didn't feel a need to, really move them up ahead of these guys or anyone else as, ahead of them because, the offense really did struggle all game long, and you can't really, give the Jets the benefit of the doubt. You kind of just got to call it how it is. Zach Wilson didn't look great. He had a few nice plays, a few nice throws, but not many. Too many times where he's trying to get out of the pocket and or he takes a sack, trying to do too much, playing too much hero ball, and that could have definitely hurt the Jets. But the offense did it when they needed it most. They went on the field, they got a touchdown with Garrett Wilson. That was beautiful, beautiful catch. And considering the circumstances, I'm really impressed with the Jets. I don't feel the need to move them up at all. If they play the Bills again, I'm not sure if they would beat them again. But they went the whole game without Aaron Rodgers except for 4 plays. So I just feel like the Jets still belong here. I think the Ravens are a bit better. They absolutely dominated the Texans. Now, the Texans aren't as good as a football team as the Bills. I still do think the Texans are a damn good football team, are a pretty good football team, much better than people think. I just think that the Ravens are just, it wasn't a good week for the Texans to play them. It was, C.J. Stroud had no time to throw the football. But by the time the second half came around, the offense started to look pretty good. So yeah, I thought the Ravens still looked very good against a very good Houston Texans, a very underrated Houston Texans team in my opinion. The defense played them tough in the first half, but Lamar Jackson, Monken, and that team made their adjustments in the second half, and they pulled away from a Texans team. Just wasn't a good time for the Texans to play the Ravens, considering, his first week in Baltimore, very difficult for defenses to play these from the quarterbacks in general, and especially in the beginning of the year, like in the first couple of weeks, because the defenses are still, they're still getting conditioned, they're still getting into shape. So, but it's still a very good game for the Baltimore Ravens. Just didn't feel the need to move the Ravens or the Jets up at all. But I felt like this team, the Cleveland Browns, absolutely killed it against the Cincinnati Bengals. They dominated on offense and defense. They ran the ball really well. Deshaun Watson looked better than he did last year. It seems like he's starting to shake off some of the rust. He's running the ball well, throwing the ball well. There were a few passes that went into the dirt and were a little short, but I mean, both teams were dealing with the rain, and that made it difficult. But you still got to count him against that. And he was getting pressured here and there. Trey Hendrickson and Hubbard, and the Bengals have a good defensive line, but the Browns ran all over them, had no problem with them whatsoever. The defense had no problem getting to Joe Burrow, as we saw, and I don't expect it to stop. I was saying all offseason, even in my power rankings, I had them at 10 prior to this year. The Cleveland Browns are a very good football team. They're going to be very good this year, and they're proving me right now. A lot of people would just say, no, they're the Browns, and the Browns just won't do it. The Bengals rule that division. Well, I do expect the Bengals to get better as the season goes on, but this Browns roster is one of the more talented rosters in the NFL. The defense came together and looked elite, and they always play well against Joe Burrow, and the offense ran the ball really well. They ran that ball really well. Continue to expect great things from the Browns. And I think the Browns, I'm not sure where the Browns are playing this week. I'll see when I do the preview for week 2. I'll do my predictions. So stick around. Make sure you like, subscribe. Stick around for that. But number 5, the Miami Dolphins here at number 5 is they moved up 5 spots, and it may seem a lot for them to move up, ahead of maybe the Browns. I think it's fair to have them ahead against the Ravens and the Jets, even the Bengals. So there were a few teams that moved back, and there were a few teams that stayed put. But I think that the Miami Dolphins had a real good outing. The offense was obviously elite. I think they're going to be a very hard football team to beat, and they also beat a very good football team in the Los Angeles Chargers. They are a good football team. Now, defensive-wise, neither team was really on it, obviously. But I will say Tua really impressed me. He looked really good, making throws with anticipation, making throws to give that play the best chance to be the best that it could be. Really impressed with Tua. Really impressed with this Dolphins offense. The offensive line looked a little better than a lot of people thought, and I was telling you guys that for a little while, that the offensive line is better than you'd think. And I think Teron Armstead didn't even play. So I'd watch out for the Dolphins. They're going to be a very difficult team to beat, just in terms of just stopping that offense. But it's time to move up into our top 4. So number 4 here, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. They lost to the Lions. If you're going to lose, you're going to move down. And I know they had Travis Kelce and they had Chris Jones out. A lot of self-inflicted wounds in this one. A couple of turnovers, a pick 6. Not really Patrick Mahomes' fault. It was Kadarius Toney. Toney accounted for that pick 6 in a way, and he also accounted for not catching the ball later in the game when the Chiefs, that probably would have put the Chiefs in field goal range, and Harrison Butker in field goal range, and he flat out dropped it. But at the end of the day, when you take a loss, it's on the team, and the Kansas City Chiefs move down here to number 4. I fully expect them to get better as the season goes on. You get Travis Kelce back. I'm unsure when you're going to get Chris Jones back. I think they're probably going to pay him sooner now, considering I think he was waiting for Nick Bosa to get paid because he wants to get paid as much or a little bit more. Because, Chris Jones is one of the best defensive players in the league, and a lot of people don't look at Chris Jones as one of those premier players. A lot of fans kind of look at, Nick Bosa, just some of the best defensive players in the league, T.J. Watts, even Aaron Donalds. I tell you, I think that Chris Jones is right in that conversation. He belongs in that conversation. Myles Garrett's. At number 3, you have the Philadelphia Eagles. I was a bit disappointed by the Eagles, but ultimately they pulled the game out. They won it, and that's the most important. But, their defense did struggle a little bit. I thought Mac Jones did a very good job. And, there are times they struggled to get pressure on Mac Jones, but they did get pressure in the biggest moments on, like, third downs, fourth downs, especially when it was a longer down because, they're just going to pin their ears back and go after the quarterback. But I thought the Patriots' offensive line was really good against them. And I also thought that the offense was a bit lackluster. I think they scored one offensive touchdown. You had the pick six from Darius Slay, I believe. Or maybe two. No, I think the lone touchdown they scored on offense was the throw to Devontae Smith from Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts struggled a little bit today. He didn't run, he fumbled at an important moment. And Jalen Hurts just did not do very well. I wasn't impressed by him. That he just didn't play I just thought he didn't play well. He was off target with a couple of throws, and I thought he was under pressure a little bit sometimes. And when he was under pressure, he wasn't very good. And this Patriots defense really showed up, and that's why I moved the Patriots up 3. I'm keeping the Eagles there. I know they won, so you can't really move. I know I did move the Jaguars down 1, but circumstances change. It's never going to be the same. There's always going to be a different scenario on why a team, if they win and they stay, or if they lose, or if they win they move back 1, or if they lose and they move up 1. They're just different circumstances every single week. There are unlimited possibilities with power rankings, and I think the Philadelphia Eagles still belong here at 3 ahead of the Chiefs because they did win. And, it is not all on wins or losses. It's a big time, scenario machine. I think you can use scenario machine for NFL power rankings in a way. Not really, but in a sense, that's, it could be a nickname. But the Philadelphia Eagles belong here at 3. I hope to see them do better next weekend. They're playing the Minnesota Vikings. A bit of a, similar matchup in my opinion, except the defense not being nearly as good as the Patriots. The Vikings are all right. I think it's a similar matchup on the offensive side, just much better receiver. And I did notice that the Eagles did struggle covering the middle of the field a bit at times. And Darius Slay was beat really badly by, I think Kendrick Bourne beat him for a touchdown. The Eagles defense, I've seen a little bit of a regression from this. So it's week 1, so that's, not going to go too overboard, but I will say that the defense did, especially the passing defense, not talking about the defensive line or the linebackers. I thought the linebackers played pretty, I thought they didn't play great, because the tight ends had a pretty good day. Eagles staying here at 3, and then their division rival, the Dallas Cowboys, just absolutely went crazy this weekend against, on Sunday Night Football. They went into the New York Giants home and just dominated them. They didn't care if they were in MetLife or if they would be at home at AT&T. And I know a lot of people are blaming the rain for Daniel Jones and the Giants not playing good, so they're trying to use that as an excuse for the Giants. But there is no excuse because the Dallas Cowboys offense was going just fine in that rain. I know the defense was very good. That defensive line. This is a top 3, top 5. The Cowboys going to have a top 5 and a top 3 offense and a top 5 offense this year. A top 3 defense and a top 5 offense this year. I've been hyping them up. I'm really pumped up. Now, a lot of people have just been thinking that I'm kind of like a secondary Cowboys fan. I'm absolutely not. I'm Colts all the way through. But, you know how sometimes you do get a team that you see and they're just very talented and you think they could be a great football team, so you'll hype them up and you're saying, oh, they're going to be great. And, I was fair. I put them down at 6 last week, but now they kind of proved me right. They go out and they play and they absolutely dominate a Giants team that we all expect to be a pretty good football team this year. We're expecting Daniel Jones to take that next step, but the Cowboys team, they have big time stars all over the team. They have Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Monty Smith on the defensive line. You have good linebackers. Leighton Vander Esch is very good cornerbacks. Trayvon Diggs and Stephon Gilmore. There's just non-stop playmakers all over the defense, all over the offense. The offensive line played absolutely incredible yesterday. Dak Prescott played as well as he could. He could have done a little better, but he really didn't have to do much. CeeDee Lamb is great. Brandon Cooks is awesome. Michael Gallup could be a little bit better, but he's a phenomenal number 3. And Jake Ferguson, as I said, Jake Ferguson and Luke Schumacher, they're both going to be a very good tight ends because Dak Prescott likes to throw to his tight ends, so they will be productive, and they're also talented. I think Jake Ferguson could be in for a big breakout year, or Luke Schumacher. Either one I could see breaking out this year. The Dallas Cowboys, I would not argue with you if you would want to put Dallas at number 1. You know, I think it's either San Fran or Dallas should be number 1. I think these are the clear, by far and away, these two teams were the best in week 1. And the scores show it. When you go and turn on the games and watch them, the game shows it. The film. Both of these teams were absolutely incredible. Brock Purdy moving on to the Niners at number 1. Brock Purdy looked absolutely incredible. Loved what Brock Purdy showed us. I just loved everything we saw from this Niners team. The offensive line was on par. We were questioning how good the offensive line would be without Michael Genchi. I don't think we even noticed. Brandon Ayuk, absolutely incredible. I like Deebo Samuel too, but I think Brandon Ayuk is their number 1. He is a number 1 receiver more than Deebo Samuel. Samuel is more of that just gadgety guy, and he is a decent receiver. I just don't think he's in the ballpark of Brandon Ayuk, who had an incredible game. Defense, Nick Bosa, Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner, Hufanga. Javon Hargrave is up the middle of that defense. I think this 49ers team, I think the Cowboys and the Niners, 1A, 1B. 1A, 1B. So, those are my week 1. Those are my NFL week 2 power rankings. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure to like, subscribe, put the post notification bell on so you don't miss any future videos. And last but not least, before we do get out of here, I want to give our members some shout outs. Thank you, Marshman Gunner, and thank you, Red the Rat, for being here through, for quite some time now, becoming members. But don't ever feel like you guys have to be a member to be part of the JDW Sports Talk Show and be a big part of this community. But if you do become a member, I will absolutely, you will get a little bit back because you're giving a little extra to the show, and I really appreciate it. So that's all I got from you. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for tuning in to the JDW Sports Talk Show. And like I said, if you enjoyed, make sure to like, subscribe, put the post notification bell on. We're doing these every single week. And this is the JDW Sports Talk Show, signing off.